Hello, friends. This is Dolores Williams of DW's View. Stand up. This is a day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. If we do not stand up for what we believe, who will? I want to thank my sponsors. They make this podcast possible. If you are a leader, professional, or an entrepreneur who is feeling frustrated or anxious because you're not performing at the level that you know that you're capable of, then unlock your life today and get your complimentary strategy session with Coach Kim at unlockyourlifecoach.com. DW's View Stand Up is also sponsored by American Patriot Mike Lindell of Mr. My Pillow. My promo code is Stand Up. Call 1-800-645-6436 or go to www.mypillow.com/stand up and go there and support DW's View and Mr. My Pillow. And finally, please contact me to access my DW's View Patriot Shopping Club. You can switch from the big box retailers to a Patriot-owned business where you can shop for products that are better, safer, and less expensive than the stores, and save 30 to 56% for products made here in America. And to my audience, I want to thank each of you for taking the time to watch or listen to my podcast. And I am blessed to introduce you to my special guest, Mrs. Delia Dominguez Cervantes. Let me tell you about Delia. She is running for the Chula Vista School Board. She is a retired administrator, San Diego County Health and Human Services Agency. She is a leader and member of the Latino American Political Association. She's a former member of the City of San Diego Latina Advisory Board. She is a domestic violence support volunteer at SBCS Casa Seguras. And she is a committed mother, grandmother, and tia nana. And she has been married for 26 years. Welcome, Delia, to DW's View Stand Up. How are you today?
I'm fine. Good morning, Dolores. How are you?
I am wonderfully blessed, and I'm just ready to rock with you this morning.
Let's do it.
Amen. So first, I want to thank you for taking the time to run for the school board. You know, that takes a lot of work, a lot of courage, a lot of commitment for you on the part, and standing up for children and standing up for the community. I want to thank you for that.
Yes, no, it just came due to my going to so many school board meetings since last summer when I first learned about the curriculum they were delivering to the children. And I kept going to the school board meetings, and I was just so determined to have the board see what the teachers union was providing as curriculum. And I didn't know that the board actually knew and approved it and paid for trainers. Mm-hmm. So that really opened up my eyes. And if they don't care to make any changes, and it takes us to speak up and say, no, this is not good. We will not accept this. You know, I'm a grandma. Yes, I'm a tia nana. I help watch my little elementary school children. And I have teachers that come to this, that teach in this school district that are family members, and both classified and teachers. And, you know, it just came easy after all the pieces fell together to say, you know, I need to run. I need to let them know this is not okay.
So Delia, I truly understand the stand that you're taking. And I'm thankful that you are paying attention, that the school board did not care, and that they actually working with the teachers union. So tell me, Delia, that contributed to you deciding to run for the school board, right?
Yes, the material, first of all, the Chula Vista educators, that's their union. They, in concert with some teachers, develop material that are contrary to my beliefs. Number one, they're sexualizing the children. They have a trainer. His name is Vinny Pompey, who comes and trains the teachers on accepting and encouraging, quite frankly, gender re-identification. And when I saw that material, it just kept snowballing, where I thought, this can't be. And the more I dug, they have also material there on the Black Lives Matter. And that material in itself wants to specifically dismantle the patriarchal practices. That means removing dad out of the picture, disrupting the Western prescribed nuclear family. How can that be right? And this is a coloring book that's given to the kindergarten to third graders. And in there, it's all, I don't know how that helps Black lives, because it's all about gender re-identification and encouraging the children, mind you, kindergarten to third grade, to accept that,
Oh my God.
become part of reality.
Yeah, you know, Delia, that is just terrible what they're doing to our children in the school. And what you just said reinforces what we learned on the Salt and Light Ministry call on Monday night. And I know you couldn't be there for that call. Right. The speaker on that call talked about the very same thing that you're talking about, what they're doing to our children and how they're transforming them. And starting with the younger age, starting with kindergarten and even preschool, you know, because the younger they take our children and mold their minds, and the more control that they have over them to shape their thinking for the rest of their lives.
At that age, they're still trying to figure out if they're Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, you know, and then now you throw something out and you undermine their confidence by having them consider that, oh, well, maybe I'm not a boy.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not a girl. Well, you know, they have no business doing that.
No, it takes advantage of the vulnerability of the children.
Right.
And it messes with their little minds, which God has already shaped in the way He wants them to think, but they're taking them in a different place that's totally not acceptable. Now, I want to, we'll get back to this, having more discussion about your experience with the school board, but I want to ask you this: how does your family, your husband and your family, feel about you running for the school board?
You know, my son-in-law, he told me over a year ago, he calls me moms. He goes, Moms, you should run for school board. And we just kind of chuckled it off because he knew I was going to the school board meetings and how passionate I am about what they're doing to the children. And my husband, very supportive. My kids are too. You know, I have a couple of grandkids that are apprehensive about showing their face that they're in support of this, because they are people of color and they do not want to be, they're still young, you know, they do not want to be canceled out. They're still finishing up college and, you know, going to be reaching out to different job opportunities. And it's all part of the same agenda, you know, to disrupt us, to divide the family. And nonetheless, he's helping me with some of my website and providing input and believes, you know, that where I come from is a good place. Leave our children alone. Let the parents insert their values. The teachers, good or bad, because there's lots of good teachers, but they're being mandated to roll out some of this curriculum that is so wrong. The critical race theory, they don't call it that. They call it everything but that. And even the instructions on the school material says do not use those words. So the children can't come home, and if the parent would ask them a particular term, they don't recognize the term. But nonetheless,
it's all deceptive.
Yes, my family's very supportive. Yeah. I don't think I've cooked anything for quite a while, even less now.
Well, that's good. I'm just so happy that you're running and that you've taken the time, you know, to run for the school board. Now, in your work at the San Diego County Health and Human Services Agency, you were there for a number of years. What did you do there?
I was started out as an eligibility technician. That's what they called it back then. The terms have changed over the years. And determining eligibility, for those in need, for Medi-Cal, food stamps,
Yeah.
different cash assistance. And even then I knew that I could take a stand because back then they had what they call a TAB, therapeutic abortion. And I was fairly new. I was still on probation, and I was given this case to go process a tab, which I didn't know what that term meant at the time. And so when I was interviewing this young lady, I kept asking her, well, when's your due date? That's the process of what you're entering into the system. And she kept telling me, no, I'm not. And I'm like, well, okay, I was being a little bit naive, but you're pregnant, right? Yes. And I thought maybe I wasn't articulating my question well enough, when's your due date? And that's when it became clear after a little communication exchange that she had no intent of keeping the baby. And I excused myself and I would speak to my supervisor. I was on probation. And they asked me, what's going on? I said, I can't do this. Well, what's the difference? When you issue money, you don't know if they're going to shoot it up their veins in drugs. And I go, that's right. I don't know. But I think that I'm doing the right thing. I'm, applying, the rules and regulations. But in this case, I do know what she's going to do with it. She's going to do an abortion. And I am pro-life. And so I had was sent to the principal's office.
Yeah.
To my boss, and they the two managers and the supervisor. I'm sitting there, and they said, why? And I said, well, let me explain this. And they took the same scenario, saying, you don't know what they're going to do with it, And I said, well, I have a knife in my drawer because that's what I use, a kitchen knife, to cut my orange slices or apple slices, when I take lunch. And I go, and if someone comes by and asks me, can they use it to cut their fruit up, I'll loan it to them. But if they tell me I'm going to use it to cut my throat, believe you me, I am not going to give them my knife. And that's the same thing. I knew that what they were going to do. And that was my introduction into the county while I was on probation, but they respected that. And see, we have to vocalize it. And the worst they can say is, I guess, write me up. But from there, I became a supervisor and eligible, then went on to be a program specialist and eventually in different programs with the county. And I went on to be a manager in different, what they call resource centers.
So Delia, you've always been an advocate standing up for righteousness.
That's right.
And what a blessing. Yeah, what a blessing you have been and that you continue to be.
Well, I believe in it strongly, and it's funny in a way how that rolled out, because a few years later, my daughter was in high school, and I had just left their father because I was a victim of domestic violence, and it was many years, and but my daughter was pregnant, and she had chicken pox in the last trimester. And the doctor, the gynecologist, told her to get an abortion because her child would be, and these are their words, would be retarded and or deformed. And she prayed about it, and not that what to do, but she prayed about it to give the strength to stand up to these adults telling her what to do.
Oh my God.
And they called me, the gynecologist called me to get her to get an abortion. Bottom line, fast forward, my grandson, who's 32 now, he just got out of the Navy almost a year, not quite. He went on to be a nuclear engineer in the military. This is a child who would be, quote unquote, retarded and or deformed. Can't go into the military and do boot camp.
Well, you know what? That is so ridiculous. Only God knows what's going to happen to that child in the womb. Only God knows what each one of us is going to be and what we're going to do with our life. Only He determines that. And thank God your family took a stand for the life of that baby.
Yes, and there was some friends, I'll call her acquaintances, that would not interfere, but they say, are you sure? Are you going to be able to handle this? And we just wouldn't entertain it. The conversation stopped there, and And so things have had happening in my life through, just different things. And, I don't know if you want to talk about this, but I was a victim of domestic violence. My shin was broken, my,
Oh my God. Yeah.
jaws, ribs, and,
Let's-
but my ex-husband, thank God, he turned a leaf too. See, God can do miracles. I left him, and for obvious good reasons, many things happened, cutting my brake lines and, just lots of things. But I thank God that he also changed. And he went on years later to work with prison fellowship. And that's a good thing. And I don't harbor any ill anymore. It was a voyage, not just a journey. It was a voyage. It was a bumpy one to get me to where I could be at peace with. I can't change the past, and that's good. And I don't want to stay in a bitter place. It's just not healthy for anyone.
Well, amen. You have the most beautiful spirit, and that you were able to forgive him.
Yes.
And all your life experiences have just prepared you for the journey that God has you on right now.
Yes, and now we're
For this journey to run for the school board.
That's right. A couple of our friends with the women's club that I belong to had also said, why don't you run for school board? Or why doesn't your, certain family members run for school board? And it was more just a light conversation. And my son-in-law and my husband, and why don't you run for school board? And it just woke up one morning and I said, I need to run for school board. and I have the material. I have the links still that the union sends out to all it's a public website where all the materials there of the different curriculum that they roll out and that they expect the teachers to deliver. And they can't deny that the curriculum is there. It actually even says curriculum on the header. And although the board and many would deny it, and, we just have to say no. And even if, I'm not at a place where okay, even if I don't win, no, because it will be a win, even if it's just to bring to light what's going on. It will be a win. And it will be what God says is going to happen.
Yeah. Well, that's a blessing right there. Just to shine a light on what's happening in our society and in your community, in all of our communities, actually throughout the nation. These things are happening. Now, I want you to talk about Delia's priorities. Now, you have that on a little card, and I want you to talk about those priorities.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Would you share about Delia's priorities?
Oh,
That's
yes.
on your card.
Yes. Well, we have half of our children. See, if you're familiar with how Chula Vista set up there, the 805 freeway divides the west side of Chula Vista to the east side of Chula Vista. There's older homes on the west side of Chula Vista of the 805 and newer homes on the east side. And, it reminds me of some of the books I used to read eons ago about the other side of the railroad tracks. Well, this is the other side of the 805, and it just isn't right. We have the majority of the schools on the east side, at minimum, at least are close to being at proficiency, at minimum, at close to, but they're not all at proficiency. But the west side, I don't think there's a school. I've looked at all the different stats and numbers, both from the Chula Vista district's numbers and CDE's number, the California Department of Education. And they're at they're at less than half of meeting the proficiency of achievement in reading or math. There's a school over there at 29%. How is that right? So my intent to bring light and say, why are we just, sweeping that under the rug? No, those children, who I see those children are? I see those children as being my children. I was a single parent, and I believed, because being the teachers, they carry this, or had in the past and still now somewhat, this certain, professional aura of, they care about my kids, they're going to teach them. But back then also, they didn't have such of a burden of teaching these other politically driven agenda items. They could focus on academics and preparing your child to be successful in school in regards to the academics. And so that really hits me when I think of the parents on the West Side who are trusting that we're doing our job, that we care enough about our children. How can they be accepting of the children failing?
Oh, you know what, Delia, that is just, I'm so glad you're making these points. Because why are we distinguishing between any child in our community or anywhere in the country? Why do we have people that make those distinctions, that you live in a certain place, then you're not worthy of a proper education?
Everyone's entitled to equal opportunities. You're not entitled to get everything the same, but the opportunities, yes,
Yeah,
equal opportunities. And they're not getting the equal opportunities. If the unions cared that much about equality, why don't they care about the lack of opportunity there? If there's, yes, you have to look at the overall picture. The dynamics might be different. It might be more single parents. There may be, language challenge issues. Well, if we know what the issues are, why aren't we addressing them? If we know what they are.
Well, exactly. Exactly, Delia. And that's why you're in a good position. And now the person that you're running against for the school board, will there be a debate? Will you have an opportunity to debate the person, or do you have a challenger?
Well, the incumbent,
Okay.
the incumbent there, Leslie Ray Bunker, she was not, I had heard that she was not going to run, and most recently it was declared she was, and she's been there for what, 8 years now. And my thought is, if you've known all along what's going on, why are we not hearing? Why are you not doing something? We need to care. The way the seats are here in Chula Vista, they're not divided into little pockets of boundaries. It's all at large. So every school board member could all be from the east side of Chula Vista, or it could be all from the west side of Chula Vista. They're not divided. They don't represent a certain area. And I think at some point we need to move to specific district areas, boundaries, so that there's a more focused care of the children in those areas.
Yes, but they have the proper representation.
Yes. And I understand there might be another person that I just heard yesterday, but I haven't seen it in writing. I just heard there might be another individual also running. So I'll refrain from using the name because I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Is there any way that a debate could be set up to debate these issues in front of the parents?
I don't see why not. There's debate issues, debate forums for city council persons and the mayoral. They've done a couple of those. It just takes a certain organization, like the League of Women. They did the last one that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Where they had the city councilmen and council persons and mayoral candidates debate. Well, it wasn't a debate. It's more like a forum, asking questions to each person.
Okay. So one of those groups would have to be the ones to initiate something like that.
In any group, I guess, if they're,
Well, that would be good. I get that would be good. And that would also give you some visibility to get your point of view out. So the voters in Chula Vista, in your district that you're running for, will know that you are standing for the children.
And there's a lot of Latino. It's the majority. This community is the majority. And it doesn't even matter if it's the east side or the west side. The majority of the ethnicity is Latino. And our culture, we have been shanghaied. We Latinos have a culture for our culture and our values I have been violated.
Yeah.
And the point would be to get the message out. And, I'd like to go and speak to some of the parents that may not have access to, ability to come to the board meetings and or to listen to these things. They're working little part-time jobs here or there, or maybe it's a language issue. And I speak Spanish. I'm Latina, so, I'd like opportunities to get out there and speak to them, knock on some doors, and hopefully, gather in a community setting so that I could ask questions. They can ask questions.
Yeah. Well, I you know what? I hope that can be worked out, Delia. I really do. Because I think that would go a long way in helping the people in the community to understand what an asset you would be on that school board. And your voice is needed very much on that school board.
One of the other priorities is of age appropriate type of material that is being delivered to our kids, and the mental health. I personally know of children that during this whole shutdown with COVID that amplified their happiness. That's how their mental health is, how you see it, how their behavior starts, showing up. And I saw it with my own eyes, what this was doing, and the confusion that they're being caused, when they go home. I have a friend whose own grandchild, when he said at school here in this school district, when he said at school that he was a boy, he was put in timeout. Because he said he was a boy.
Oh my God. He's a boy, and he said, I'm a boy. So he couldn't say that.
No.
That is just.
He was put in time out because he said he's a boy, and he said he was a boy.
Well, see, that just goes to show you right there what the confusion has taken place in the system of telling boys they can be girls, girls they can be boys, and to deliberately cause confusion in the minds of these little babies.
Yes.
That is just so evil.
And they come back and they don't know, they don't trust. And, they have posters in their classrooms. Many teachers do, not all, because of those that I know refuse to, that says, come speak to me. I will be supportive of your transgender decisions, and things like that. And, they are not, what adults do when they're older.
Yeah.
They're adults,
Exactly.
But the children,
leave the children alone.
Leave them
them alone.
Yes, they will figure it out, on their own. Once they figure out that they're not Batman or Superman, they'll come to terms that they're human.
Yep, that's right. Now, let's talk a little bit about what these school boards, the responsibilities. Now, school boards, they set the educational goals and establish policy for the school system based on the state laws and community values. Now, what will you do to make sure that the school system follows the state laws and the community values and sets educational goals that are accurately followed?
That's interesting. I've been looking up some of these rules and laws and such, and I'll get away from this subject in a minute. But for instance, sex education is not required. It's not state required in elementary school districts. This school district has always had a form of it. So what we're doing there is totally voluntary. The school district, the board has decided to move forward on that, and has been. So that alone tells you that we have some leverage there to bring it down. It doesn't need to be where it needs to be. As far as academic proficiency, there's certain goals that have to be met to get federal funding and state funding. So I'm curious as to why we continue to get this money when we're not meeting certain goals, the standards. Why, what are we saying? I also have a question to how monies come in and how they're distributed. There's a question that asks parents, the children, what their first language at home is. And if they say Spanish, ESL, they're a Spanish speaker. Well,
Mm,
that doesn't mean I can't speak English. That just
exactly.
means I spoke Spanish with mom
Yeah.
and dad and grandpa, but I've never had to, I never went to school in Mexico. So those children, I need to take a second and a closer look as soon as those numbers and that data became available to me, because I know that it happened to some of my family members. They started putting them into classes that were Spanish only to help them. They go, well, I don't speak Spanish. The question was,
Yeah.
what did we speak when we were
You know
growing
what?
up?
That's Delia, that is discriminatory against the child and prejudging.
Well, they're assuming they can't speak
Yeah,
English,
exactly.
and so there's funding issues there that I think, like the monies we're getting, all these monies for and grants. So why are we not using it to focus on us helping these schools that are struggling? And it doesn't even have to be in form of funding. It could be in providing incentives to the teachers that are being successful in the schools that they're teaching. Maybe if they just drove 3 or 4 or 5 more miles, they would have an incentive to go to that school to bring their skills that they used to be successful in the East Side schools, to bring it to some of the other schools that are struggling.
Yeah, to spread it out over the whole community.
Yes, and and there's nothing wrong with school choice.
Yeah.
Parents, if I had a choice, do we not believe for a second that a parent would not choose to send their child to a school that was successful versus keeping their child?
Right.
What
That's
parent's
right.
going to do?
That parent is always going to choose what's best for their child.
Yes. And
Yeah.
so if they had some more choices, and competition kind of brings out the best in all of us. And I think a little competition might
healthy.
be healthy, where, hello, we better, step up our game here, or we're going to start losing some of our students. We already have a lot of students that, there's been a decrease in enrollment because parents are choosing to go with homeschooling.
Yeah.
Private schools, but not everybody can afford private schools.
That's true.
Or even the homeschooling takes some dedication on the part of the family leaders, whether they have a parent or an adult, because someone's got to work.
Yep. Somebody's got to work. Somebody got to pay the bills.
Yes.
Yeah. Somebody has to pay those bills. But yeah, but parents are finding ways that they can try to get around that. And I think probably the churches should get involved with.
Yes, I would agree. I know the church that I come to, there's a light at the end of our tunnel. Our pastor had for years always wanted to have a K through 6th grade school, especially in those such vulnerable years. Every year is a vulnerable year, because you're exposing them to someone else's ideology for what, 6 to 8 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
They have them more than we do.
Yep, they do.
When we get them when we come home tired from work, when they've just got to do homework. You're on their case about, do your homework. Did you take your shower? Did you take your bath? Brush your teeth? Let's eat some dinner. Stop fighting with Jimmy. Get over here, get your dad. That's that. I know that.
Yeah.
I know it. You didn't take out the trash. You were supposed to take the trash. Just life. Things, and and of course, now you have all this, electronics and things that also insert themselves into our children's lives. And so yes, a little competition would be healthy, and I bet you most of us would step up our game. And and we've got to have parent participation. I don't think our school board solicits it in a way that the parent can participate.
That's true right there, because if the parent don't participate, then they don't even know what's happening with their own child.
Right.
They don't know what's happening with the child.
And who's going to tell them what's happening with what we're teaching? they should be able to see all the curriculum. The
Yeah.
parents should know what books are in each classroom.
That's
We
right.
should know what books are in each library.
Yeah.
There should be a list and there should be a rating. And we
Yeah.
know the ratings have changed. When I grew up, what was rated R is now PG, and but at least parents.
For that matter, it's not even allowed.
Right. Oh, yes.
Books from so many years ago that
Oh,
had
yeah.
morals and that had values, those are no longer accepted.
Right.
And they're just more or less kind of, we can't even bring that into the system. No, we have to bring in stuff that's gonna turn these children turn their little minds
Yes.
away from God and away from righteousness and clear thinking.
Yes.
Make them make and mold them into something, little monsters.
And you bring up something interesting. I was exposed to it in high school with one of my granddaughters. In one of her classes, all this teacher had was a particular liberal TV station on all day long.
Yeah.
Okay. When I went to speak to the principal, they said, well, the teacher has the prerogative, it's their curriculum. Okay, no, I get showing the one, but then you should show the other. And that's like high school. Okay.
Yeah.
But, well, that trickles down to the elementary school district. The teacher has to refrain from sharing their ideological beliefs. Even if I believe that they're of a particular ideology that I am conservative, but they need to focus on the academics. What about the math? And don't be inserting CRT into math.
Oh my God.
Inserted in math. I've got curriculum and lessons that shows a teacher how to insert it into math. Yeah.
But the teachers, I don't know how much leverage the teachers have. Are they forced to teach this curriculum that's anti-family, anti-child?
And I think if I were to put myself into their shoes, because I do have family members that teach in this school district, and so I'm aware of how they're being challenged. If I were to put myself into their shoes, I would think, okay, if I don't go this way, then my principal's going to write me up.
Yeah.
And if I don't post these posters and they're getting from their principals, I strongly recommend that you put it up. Consistent email saying, basically telling put up that poster, and like my family members have not put up those posters. They refuse to.
Yeah. Now, how did they come out with refusing to do that? Are they sanctioned in any kind of way, or do they just don't do it?
They just don't do it.
And there's no blowback from the system.
They've gotten ostracized by the teachers, kind of like kids. Oh, we're not going to talk to her now.
Okay.
Now they're, that ostracization, more of a microscopic look at their work. And but I don't know if we've met Mark Schneider. Yes, he gave me a contact person, a local law firm here. And I've put my family members in touch with them, and they will pro bono if they get to the point where it's their values, their religious beliefs versus their job, that they will step up and help them. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, that is a good thing, because teachers can't afford to go out and hire lawyers, but they need to know that they're doing the right thing, and they need to know that they're supported in doing the right thing.
And maybe that's another thing that we can put out to the public, that there is these law firms that will help them, so that they feel like, okay, I can stand up for my values, and they try and they do. But some of them, it comes down to like, I'm going to lose my job. Some of my family members are looking for other opportunities because, and they've been teaching for a long time,
Uh,
just in case it comes, they come to the chopping board.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know what, Delia, we've got to get ready to wrap it up, but I want you to give your final comments, anything you want to leave us with before we close out.
Well, I think that I most represent the parents and the grandmas, the aunts that have raised their children from meager beginnings to not so meager beginnings, that they do have a voice, that they know they have a voice. And I want them to know what's being taught. And I don't believe that they do know. I just don't believe that they do know what's
Yeah.
being taught. And I want to help their children be successful and address the academic proficiency or the lack of, and ensure that there's age appropriate material that's being delivered to the children. And who's going to define that age appropriateness? Well, guess what? We're going to bring in the parents.
Okay, now Delia, do you have a website or some
Yes.
way that people can reach you? Would you tell us what your website is?
Yes, it's www.delia, that's DELIA, that's FOR, schoolboard.com. So that's www.deliaforschoolboard.com. And I would appreciate your support, even if all you can do is word of mouth.
Yes, so we will definitely do that. And thank you, Delia. Thank
And
you
thank
for
you.
showing up here.
And we will go forward in Jesus' name.
That's right. That's right. No better place we can go than in that name. And I'm thankful to you. Now, I want to thank each of you, my audience, for taking the time to watch or to listen to DW's Views Stand Up. And remember to subscribe to my podcast. And also, we want to get the latest recordings out to you and have you to listen each time and share the message with your friends and also on your social media. And join us again next week. We'll have another guest. And here at DW's View, we stand up. We stand up for what's right. And we invite people like Delia to come and share. And then I have my challenge for you, dear friends, each week. And that is to take a stand and to stand up. Because guess what, friends? If